let's dig in a little bit more on that risk operations center. I'm curious to hear kind of how that evolved and really how every modern CISO, but also every modern company could utilize it in a meaningful way.
Let me give you an example of what we deal with all the time, right? So you have risk scores that are given by different tools, right? And so I ask customers saying, look, you have two business units. One has a risk score of 900 on 1,000, and another has a risk score of 700 on 1,000. Which one will you? And you have only one resource. Which will you prioritize to fix first? They say the 900 score is high risk score, right? I want to make sure I bring that down. Say, well, now let me give you additional piece of information. The 900 risk score is on a business unit that makes 2 million a year. The 700 is on a business unit that makes 500 million a year. Now tell me, where would you put the resource? That one additional piece of information completely flipped your prioritization on its head. And that's what I mean about, it's not just about your best practices. It's not about the what technically that attack surface could do. It is really about what is the impact it can have on our business, and that should drive your remediation effort, right? Where you should focus on. And so, the risk operations center is bring all of your assets in one place, which is a challenge everybody has. So you have full asset visibility. Bring all risk findings from your code scanning tools, your vulnerability scanning tools, your cloud scanning tools, your IoT scanning tools, all in one place. Apply threat intelligence, apply business context, apply threat intelligence to reduce what is not actually exploitable, apply business context to say, yes, I have these bad things, but how many of these are actually important to my business? And then orchestrate a remediation plan and then create compliance reporting, right? Like compliance is what pays the bills for cybersecurity in many ways, right? So how do you operationalize all of that in one single place rather than having multiple dashboards in one in every tool that only give you one silo? And so this idea has really taken shape very well with our customers because they like this idea of centralizing and operationalize risk, because that's a more strategic conversation, right? As a CISO, if you're asked by the board, what is your strategy for cybersecurity? And if your response is that, oh, I'm going to deploy disk encryption for the next 1 year, right? That's not a strategic initiative. But if you say, and the question is, what's the outcome of a risk operations center, right? Because that is how you get a business outcome. So one of the things that we just recently did in one of the POCs was that we had a customer, we imported 65 million findings from their multiple tools in the risk operations center. Once we applied threat intelligence to that, it actually came down to only 2 million had any real possibility of being attacked. And then we applied business context that went down to 300,000. And so the way the value that is bringing in cybersecurity is that if you don't use a risk operations center where you're centralizing your risk, you are actually asking your IT team to fix things that don't matter to the business, which is a waste of business resources. This is the time IT and development could have used to create the next big competitive differentiator. Instead, they spend all the time patching and fixing things that actually at the end were not anything meaningful to the risk, right? So it's come up really well. Customers like the idea. It's easier to explain to their management as well instead of saying we have a security data lake or something like that. And centralizing all of your keys risk factors allows us to do more things like you're leveraging agentic AI and some of those things to help you even further in triaging and reducing your risk. So the Risk Operations Center and our Qualys, our version of that is called Enterprise True Risk Management, is really all about how do we help you operationalize your risk and then tie it to the business and get an actual remediation done.